It is day 40 since sprout for the plant being grown in the VGrow box with the DWC kit, and the plant in here almost failed. I had, let's just say, an annoying problem and had to make a big change in order for this plant to bounce back. In this video, I'll talk about what that problem was, what I did to correct it, and I'll give an overall update on how this plant is being grown in the VGrow box. Okay, so here is the plant. Looks pretty good at first glance, right? It didn't always look this way. It definitely did have some problems, which I'm about to talk about here in a minute. This is GDP, Ken's original GDP. So Granddaddy Purple, classic strain. I've been wanting to grow this out for many years, never have. Now I'm actually able to do it for the first time and really want this thing to be successful. So I did have to make a big change when it comes to the nutrition. And let's just get right into what the problem was, which I think it had to do with the nutrition. So basically around day 15 is when I noticed this, that the plant started to really show like the inoveinochlorosis. There was also some rusting kind of happening on the leaves, which is either a sign of magnesium deficiency or calcium deficiency. And I thought to myself, well, that's kind of interesting. I've used these nutrients before. It's these base A and B from VivoSun. I've used these before in the cocoa setup. So it was a 3-gallon cocoa with perlite. I had some really great results with it, but my first time ever running it here in this hydro system. I thought to myself, hey, if I'm seeing some calcium and magnesium deficiencies, maybe it's just missing CalMag. A lot of these lines, they have base nutrients, but they also have additives, CalMag, and they say it's optional, that you can get away without it, but for the most part, you really do need it. So I went ahead and added in some CalMag in order to try to correct the problem, and that didn't seem to fix it. So at that point, I just decided to safe side it, and I said, you know what? Let's do a reservoir change and let's go back to some nutrients that I know and I'm comfortable with. So I ended up switching out and going back with Athena nutrients just so I can get through this grow successfully. Now, after further research, one thing I realized is it could have actually been a pH issue, right? pH fluctuation issue. One thing that I noticed is that when I filled the reservoir, I put about 2 gallons in there because it was a small seedling. I didn't really feel the need to put 4 gallons in there, which is the capacity on this. So I just put a couple gallons in there, put the nutrients in there, pH to 5.8. What I noticed was over the period of just a week, it seemed to have risen up a lot, like up to 7.0 pH, sometimes a little bit higher than that. And so that's when I realized that, hey, maybe it's just the pH being too high is what really threw everything off. Well, I'd already kind of committed to making the change to the different nutrients at that point, so we're just going to continue to run with Athena, but this really could have just been a pH fluctuation issue. And this is something where this is really my only 4th run using deep water culture. 2 of the runs were actually in a hydro bucket, which is a 3.5-gallon container. So I think maybe with the less amount of water or nutrient solution in there, just like using 2 gallons instead of the 3.5, maybe that's more prone to adjusting the pH quicker, faster. I don't really know, but I think that overall it was just a pH issue, and that, I don't think it was anything against the nutrients or anything like that. I think it was just totally a user error, and I should have been a little bit more attentive to what the pH is. Yeah, usually I would come in here every couple days and check the pH and adjust, but I was really busy that week. It did kind of run to the wayside a little bit as far as checking pH. Totally could have been my fault. Long story short, everything has bounced back, and everything's looking pretty good so far when it comes to the nutrition. And I totally could have just faked it and been like, yeah, this plant is great all the time. Look, it's beautiful and it's been great all the time, but I'm not fake. And that's one thing I just want to caution a lot of people out there, is that there are so many fake content creators on YouTube that you just really got to be careful. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and name names or anything like that, but it's a large handful of people that just pretend like they only get good results and then don't show their failures or deficiencies and just act like it's okay, and then they'll go and they'll sell their program, or they'll go and they'll try to sell their genetics. I've been doing YouTube here since 2015, so 11 years now. There's no point in me hiding problems. I've been very transparent from the beginning that problems happen, right? And I think it's actually a good thing to show on camera because, well, people come across problems. People like you may have come across problems, and this is a good learning experience to where it could help reduce or prevent these problems from happening again in the future. Let's talk about lighting. So I started these plants on 24/0, 24 hours with lights on, 0 hours of complete darkness. Now, I just did that for 2 weeks. Then I switched over to the traditional 18/6 light cycle, 18 hours with the lights on, 6 hours of complete darkness. And I don't think a lot of people know that you can do that. I think there's a misconception that you have to be on one straight veg light cycle throughout the entire veg stage. No, you can absolutely start off with a 24/0 light cycle, then go to an 18/6 or a different type of veg light cycle for the remaining part of veg. No problem. I've never had a problem with the plant becoming a hermaphrodite, showing intersex traits or anything like that. And A lot of people will run 24 hours light cycle because they like the consistent environment, right? So when you turn off the lights, for example, temperature typically drops, right? Humidity kind of changes, whether it be it raises because of plant respiration or could potentially lower, depending on what climate you're in. I'm in a very dry climate, so humidity tends to drop quite a bit when I have seedlings in here. But I decided to start off with a 24-0 light cycle, then switch to 18-6. Now I went from the seedling spectrum to the veg spectrum, and that's what's shown on the app. Let me bust out the app right now. So you can see I actually did reduce it down to 25% only because we're filming. Now I had this at 100%. That's why I've been keeping it at for quite a while here, and we'll do a par test here in a minute. But on the bottom here, you can see the different spectrums that you can choose. We're out of the seedling stage, so now on the veg spectrum. And the difference between the two, I can just kind of show you. Just a little bit more red when it comes to the veg spectrum. You can see it just peaks up a little bit more there. And then when you get into flowering, you'll see it'll even change. Very minor change, it looks like, just by looking at that, but a little bit more red spectrum when we go to flowering. But for right now, we're just on veg. All right, so now I want to do a quick par test, and I actually want to bump this back up to 100% so we can get an accurate, or somewhat accurate, of a measurement. You see the light went way up from there. Still in the veg spectrum, and I've got my par meter here. I just wanted to kind of show what it's at right here, right in the dead center. That's about 470 ppfd right there in the dead center. So for the veg stage, that's fine. I typically aim between 400 to 600 ppfd. As this plant continues to grow up, it's going to get higher and higher in that ppfd. So it should kind of grow into the ppfd that I'm looking for as the plant continues to grow. There is one variable though, right? The door is open. If I were to close this door, it would get slightly higher of a reading. So I just want to point that one out. All right, let me turn that back down so we can get back into filming. Go back down to 25%. And there we go, dim down, perfect for filming. Let's talk about environment. So that has changed just a little bit. Since I changed the light to be 100%, that increased the overall amount of heat that's entering the grow space. I did increase the air circulation and the air exchange, and the temperature has been about 78, 79 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. In past grows, when I was actually using the VGrow box in the summertime, it gets really, really hot here, I was struggling to keep temps below 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm really happy to see that it's 78, 79 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not getting too high, too out of control, because the higher the temp goes, the more stressed out the plant can be. Now, as far as humidity, RH, that's been, I was using the humidifier in there. It's worked out really, really well, but the plant has grown so much that it doesn't even need this humidifier anymore. It barely kicks on anymore. The plant transpires, so it releases humidity into the air. With all these leaves in there, it's just raising up that humidity naturally. And so I'm actually about to take out that humidifier right now. Let's talk about plant training. So I did top this plant once. I think I topped at the 5th node if I remember correctly. And since then, I've just been kind of bending things down with my hands a little bit. But if you look at the back corner here, you can see we are ready for a trellis net to be installed. It's this trellis net, then it says topping. I'd like to top it before that, but I did top it already. Now we're ready to add the trellis net, and then shortly after, we're ready to flip to flowering, according to this. And then from there, it gives tons of time to stretch up. And then if it reaches this high, which it did last grow, it's over height. So I'm really hoping that we don't reach this high. I really want to keep in the range here so things aren't too hot in the environment and get some light stress happening like we did last time around. So yeah, just kind of bending things down here, and we're gonna add in the trellis right now. Here's a good example of what the leaf damage was. Let me pull this off. There we go. Yeah, so this was the damage that I was seeing. Anyways, I kept these on. It's time to pull them off at this point though. They're not really serving much. So let's install the trellis net now. And so they have these clips that just basically clip onto the side poles here. I already added the ones on the other 3 corners, but just snap it in like this. And then they have magnetic hooks. So magnetic hook, just stick right to it. I'll put one on each side. And then after that, it's just adding the net. And then we've got the trellis net. And this is what I didn't use last round, which I really should have, because it can certainly help with the training, kind of weaving things down and getting the plant to spread a little bit wider so it can take up the whole space. All right, so I added in the trellis net, and I'm just really gonna be tucking things down until I can get it wide enough. And then once I've got some of these middle branches growing up, is when I'll start to let this plant grow into the net and start to grow above the net. And then again, shortly after that, once I've got just a ton of tops here that are as even as I can get them to be, then I'll go ahead and I'll flip to flowering. And then it should be a 2 to 3 week stretch. And then from there, it's just flower time. So that'll be about it. Now, in regards to pests, there hasn't been any pests here. I've been coming in here and kind of checking the underside of the leaves. I think in hydro, you're kind of a lot less likely to come across pests, but certainly you can, right? Especially on the leaves, for example, you always want to be cautious of, always be weary of. So I come in here every few days and still look at the underside of the leaves, make sure I don't see anything kind of flying around here. Everything's been good. I don't do sprays anymore. I used to do preventative sprays, just sprays in veg, to where I would spray a lot of essential oils, or I'd do like Mammoth Can Control. I really like that one. Dr. Zymes is another one, but I haven't been doing it. I've been pretty hands-off when it comes to that, and I haven't really come across any pest issues. So definitely a lot less likely to come across pests when you're growing indoors versus outdoors. Now, one big risk is I could go to my outdoor garden, work for an hour, half hour, whatever, and then come directly inside and be right here and easily transfer pests from me to the plant. I make sure that I don't do that. So anyways, we're looking good so far. Hopefully the no pest situation can stick up for the rest of the grow. So everything should be dialed in now. We should just see vigorous growth from here, and I should be able to flip the flower pretty soon here. I want to give a shout out to Vivo Sun. Thank you so much for sponsoring this grow series. You can use discount code MrGrow15. That works on both their website as well as Amazon. And I'll definitely have links to the VGrow box, DWC kit. Everything you see here will be linked down in the YouTube description section below. I'd love to know in the comment section below, have you grown GDP before? It's something that's been around for many, many years, and I'm sure there's many of you who have grown it. So please let me know in the comment section below, what tips do you have for growing GDP? I'd love to read through that and see if there's any takeaways from me. That's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this time around, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.